We are here to talk about Write Up Christmas editions. Please do feel free to pop questions in messages. I will try and ping them up. And obviously we might have to repeat things as people join. It's just the nature of life.
Yeah.
But you might have seen yesterday on Substack that we announced that we have 2 guest judges joining us for Write Up. So alongside me, we have 2 inaugural professional writers, Emma Simpson and the lovely Tom Wentworth.
Yes.
Who's in Bath today, in a theatre, I think. So that's so lovely because I think, Emma, you'll really be able to talk to people about your process.
Mm-hmm.
But also what it felt to be like at Write Up. I think
it's
so
sure.
lovely to share with people. And we can go through what we're looking for as judges. So what the categories are, how we go about judging it. I think it's really important to be really open with people. So they understand not just for Write Up, but actually how you do go about scoring things, how people make decisions. I was saying to Emma that I've kind of used the framework that I used to use in the civil service, which was a very fair framework for judging pictures when I worked as a brand creative. You know, sometimes I was pitching myself and sometimes I was judging other people's pictures. So it's really good to have it documented, also to look at your bias, to kind of, go back and... What do you think about that, Emma?
Well, it gives it maximum transparency, really, doesn't it? And, I worked in government, in civil service for a while as well. And that's what I really relate to about this, because it's like, often when you enter things, you sort of think, oh, God, it's so subjective and it's just what that person likes on the day. And, there are always elements of subjectivity in how you find, in what gives you perhaps emotional impact or something like that, because we all have our different experiences. But I think the way that you've done the judging criteria makes it really fair, really open, really equitable for anyone to come in. And, it's like when people sort of, one of my biggest pieces of advice, I suppose, for the whole thing would be, not to kind of try and over anticipate what judges are looking for, and really stay true to yourself, which is what I wrote in, in the post with you. And I really mean that. It's like when I was entering the last one, I was in a real tiz about it, because I was just like, oh gosh, I've written so many things, and almost, do I take a piece of that, or do I revisit that, or do I go back to that thought? And actually what happened was I just thought, scrap all of that, and I did something totally new, totally fresh, and just completely in the moment, inspired by what the prompts you had put up. And I thought, and that's where that piece came from, so it wasn't trying to overthink what might they like, or, what will be pleasing, but it was stay true to your own voice, because the weighting system that you've defined is really, really fair and transparent. So I think it's, it's great in that way. Do you know what I mean? It's not like you can't contrive it.
And we had a real mixture. And I think for me, that's really exciting. Like being as somebody, so I started out in theatre. That was where my early career was. And then after I had my first baby was when I moved into writing books, because it's much more accessible if you're at home than trying to get to a theatre with a baby. But I used to write poetry, but I don't anymore. And what I really liked was having that mix of prose and poetry and dramatic monologue. It was really nice. And I think writers often we get so siloed in our genres, either the form that we use or what we write about or who we are as people. I'm a woman of colour, so I can quite easily get put in like one box. Tom's obviously like a disabled activist as part of his writer, and he's a gay writer. So, he can immediately, he could be in one box. I know, Emma, there's such a strong, for you with Breaking Waves, there's a huge like open water community, isn't there? But we're all more than just those things.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why when I submitted for you last time, I didn't want to write about that. And I was in the middle of the whole Breaking Waves tour and everything. And it was what I was talking about, what I'd written a book about. And I didn't. I wrote something different. And and it really kickstarted me into the joy and process of my second book, because I wrote about tea. And funnily enough, it was not something I'd ever intended to write or put in the new book, but it's now become the first opening bit of my new book, which is really exciting, because I just sat there, and I was actually abroad at the time. And I was just sitting out on a little balcony in our little villa thing, and our apartment. And I just sat out there in a quiet moment while everyone else was still snoozing, and just sort of thought, right, something new, and it was just beautiful. It was really fun to do that, something a bit unexpected, like you say, and perhaps whether that's a different medium, whether it's poetry or something, you know, you wouldn't normally go to. And again, I would say, don't worry if you think, oh, I don't know poetry and I don't know the rules. It's not about that. It's about, you know, how it fits the theme. And we'll talk about the themes in a minute, because I love the themes that are sort of the variety in the themes itself. But also thinking about how it will come across on the day, you know, like when you're standing in that hall, which is, it can be really nerve-wracking to do those things, but it's such a warm and welcoming community. So I also would encourage people to think, you know, what you're writing, write it with that sort of like, I want to share this with people. I want this to have meaning, because there's so many things around Christmas. I mean, as Tom wrote in his little piece, there's the joy and the sparkle, but there's the melancholy and there's the loneliness. And there's, you know, it's such an incredible kind of centerpiece for different emotions and different perspectives, isn't it? And lots of people don't celebrate Christmas or do, you know, so there's all these different aspects of it to come together. But you know, when you write something, be brave as well, you know, have a go, speak it out loud in your front room to yourself. And then, you know, get into that thing of like, I want to share this because it's worth sharing, you know?
No, definitely. And I mean, and I was thinking about this morning. I was thinking, like, even if you don't submit this time, please come, because what a
Yes.
your support. It's a really fun night. It's our
Oh, it
Christmas
was such
party.
fun. It was such fun.
It's our Christmas party when, you know, we might not be, you know, particularly if we're like us and we're just working away in our little offices, you know, you might not have a works Christmas party anymore. And even if you do, there's something, I mean, and you know this from like the meetups and when we have the writer circles, there's something
Yeah.
in being with other people
Oh, yeah.
who think, who are writers, who think in that deep way, who want to get into things that we feel, because a lot of people are introverts, right? But when we come, I mean, I'm not an introvert, but
Neither am I.
but I have introvert qualities, and I
Yes.
see them as qualities. But when we come together, I think people feel very quickly so safe to be
Yeah.
themselves, to think more deeply, to kind of know they're in that space. And I was thinking, like, you know, one of the things that Write Up does is, even if you're not the writer that gets chosen or you don't submit, it says writing has value. Writers
Yeah.
have
Oh,
value.
yeah.
And one of the things, obviously, that we're doing, and the reason we're crowdfunding, is we pay the writers to read. It's not it's not a huge, it's not a ridiculous sum of money or anything, but it's saying writers should be paid.
Yeah, and I can't tell you how special that is as somebody who's currently on a book tour and has been, you know, since February. Sorry, there's now a dog barking in the background. Apologies. You know, sometimes you get paid for things and sometimes you don't. There is a massive expectations that writers will come and do everything for free, just in the, you know, because it's apparently it's a total privilege just to speak to people, which it is in that connection with the audience. But in terms of like actually you're trying to earn a living at the same time. So I think that's so important, that part of it, because like you say, you are valuing the writers. And also in terms of the evening itself, I mean, I was so grateful last time to be one of the first. I think I was first. Was I the first or one of the first? First reader, because then I got to sit and listen as an audience member. So I actually experienced the evening in both ways. So I wasn't the person sitting feeling a bit nervous, waiting to go up, waiting to be last, because sometimes that means you miss a bit of what's going on because you're thinking about how you're going to perform. So because I got my performance done quite early, I then got to sit and enjoy the evening. And I was blown away by the diversity of voice, you know, and the different styles and the matter. You know, even though you gave on that one a sort of home and belonging kind of theme, it was incredible, the interpretations of that, which is what I love. And like, you know, the categories that we put up this time, they just give me chills. I think they're brilliant. You know, there's like, I love that you've got like, you know, you've got the ghost stories and the winter tales and that sort of hints of the dark side and the, you know, that stuff. And then folklore and myth and fireside tales and the mischief and the magic. But then, you know, with the memoir and family, you've got at the heart of what this time of year, what Christmas means to you in so many deep ways. I mean, I'm an unashamed Christmas lover, but also it's a real time of reflection and grief for me because of losses. And my brother's birthday is the 10th of December. My dad died on the 3rd of December. So there's some really, you know, and it's a really obvious time for family members to be absent, clearly.
Yeah.
but also I feel lucky that I still embrace the joy of Christmas, and I really do love it. But it's not that way for other people. And then family drama and comedy, which could also be twinned quite well because there's a lot of comedic moments in family stories around Christmas, and the madness and the ways that people behave never ceases to amaze me. So I think there's just such richness in this theme. I can't wait to read the submissions.
And in thinking about how we go about judging it, so do you think it's helpful for us to talk about the judging categories and actually
Mm,
how we score things?
yeah, definitely.
Do you want me to run through that, or would you like?
Yeah, you go for that, Amy, because I think you're sort of, yeah, because the way you devised it, I think is brilliant. So if you explain it.
And do chip in, and if people are listening and you have
Mm,
questions,
yeah.
I saw Rachel's just popped on, and she read from her beautiful poetry book, Sauce Will Thicken on Standing at Write Up, and it was so moving. And
Oh.
I don't know if you saw this week, but Rachel announced that her second poetry collection is going to be published next October.
Oh,
So
wow. It was the most moving poem. It was outstanding. It really was. And that's why it was such a privilege to be there as a guest,
yeah.
regardless of being a speaker or someone who's submitted. So it's just, honestly, I couldn't encourage people more to come along and have the most community-based evening, whether you're a writer or not. You know, I brought friends along who wouldn't write in a million years, but were just like, wow, blown away by it.
Few people brought friends along, and I won't name names. Oh, Rachel's poetry collection, new poetry collection next year is going to be called From the Ashes, by the
Oh,
way.
brilliant. Thanks, Rachel. That's great.
But
Much love.
some people have said to me that they have a friend or a family member who's always wanted to write, but they're too scared, and they're going to bring them to Write Up to say, look how amazing this is. This is not a scary thing.
No, indeed.
How we're designing our own spaces, because this is writers designing their own spaces, our own platforms, paying ourselves to be in those platforms. Um, they're so secure. It's not like because often sometimes you do feel like you're just pushed into an environment that you don't understand.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
don't know
yeah.
what anybody wants from you, and you don't get paid, and you sell 3 books, and you go home and you think, what was that?
What was that? And it cost me 50 quid to get there, and I paid for parking, and I've just lost a load of money. And what was I doing? And did anyone appreciate it? And, you know, all those questions like that. It's the most vulnerable thing I think you can do, is sharing your art in any form is so vulnerable because you really put your heart and soul into something, and then you're like, oh god. But yeah, no, talk about the categories, and then and then I would like to talk about the music as well.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to talk about, how did you find the visibility piece in the build up to Write Up? Because obviously, because I've got a comms background, I did quite a lot of, we did lives, didn't we? And I wrote kind of press releases for each writer and tried to like spotlight them. You're quite used to that because you're on book tour. But I also wondered, I think that was quite a nice experience for perhaps the newer and emerging writers as well.
I thought it was incredible. I thought it was amazing because it was consistent, it was exciting, it wasn't overwhelming. It was just the right balance, really. I thought, you know, in terms of what the whole thing's about, and then you're little like, oh, I mean, I was so over the moon to be selected. I can't tell you. And then to see who I was up with as well, some people who I knew and some who I didn't. And then I'd be like, oh, I'd see so and so. And think, all right, let me find out about them. And that was great. It was great because you
And I
felt like
had
you're
people
already
that
part.
I'd never met in person until the
Yeah,
night of Write Up. I didn't know them
no,
before.
exactly.
And I think that was so nice that it was blended. It's not just giving jobs to your friends.
Yeah,
And we also had a mix of published writers, traditionally published. We had emerging writers. I mean, Matt and Michaela, who are submitted, they were just so exciting, and I know
yeah.
Matt's gone on to win other prizes
Has
since.
he? Oh, amazing. And
Yeah,
Rachel's just written there that the comms and marketing pre and post event was amazing. Yeah, I totally agree. It was. And so I felt like, you know, going in, like I knew that, like, for example, I recognized Rachel because I'd seen her photo, and I recognized Michaela because I'd seen her photo. So you're like, oh, hello. And then everyone's got their little group. It was just so friendly, and it made it, it made it not in any way intimidating. And just because, you know, I've published a book and I'm on tour doesn't mean that I don't get nervous. I get nervous every time. I get nervous like last night before I spoke here at Bridport, I was just like, ugh. So you know, you still get all the feels. So I think that stuff is so important.
and also the way people volunteered to put it together. So we had
Yes.
Tom Wentworth lovely husband, Steph, he ran the bookstore for us, and the writers got 100% of the money from their book sales, which, again, as you will know, Emma, it's the case.
Doesn't always happen. Yes.
um, that, and then we had like Lauren, who did such a good job that I've actually put it in the budget this time that she's actually one of the team on the night.
Good, because she was absolutely fabulous with everything. Lauren is a gem. Yeah, and helping in every way, and everyone who was there helping with the food, with the drinks, with the door, with just organising, with setup, with the tables, with making it all pretty. Because I think sometimes you think, oh, there's a whole team of people doing this, but no, basically it was you, Amy, and and then we came in and we put flowers on the tables and we did all this. So it was a real community effort in putting it together as well, which I think because it looks so professional, people might not realise that. And it's like, no, it's everybody just mucking in. And Victoria, oh, bless you, you listened last night. Thank you. That's very sweet of you.
Anna is talking to us from Bridgeport, which is super exciting. I'm a little bit envious. But no, it was. And you know what was funny is I had on that glitter sequin jumpsuit. And
you did. It was amazing. How are you going to top that at Christmas, Amy? She wore a glittered sequin jumpsuit in the summertime.
I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go Pansy and Christmas conservative.
Okay.
Not that I'm conservative.
Maybe I'll go in glitter sequins this time.
But I was walking home, and do you remember I brought my child's wagon from the beach, and I had all like about 20 jugs and bottles filled with flowers that were on the table.
Yes.
And I was walking home from the venue when everyone had gone home on my own in this glitter jumpsuit, pulling this wagon full of flowers. And people were stopping me in the street going, "Where are you
doing? What are you doing?" Yeah, well, it was great.
And one person even stopped me and then started following me on Instagram because they were just like, well, whatever you were doing, I wanted to be part of it.
I want to be there.
It was really funny. But no, so we'll get on to so do ask questions. Emma and I are now going to discuss how we judge the submissions. Because we want to be like as open as possible with people. I also know as the person who had to write to the people who didn't get chosen, that was the worst part of doing this. That was not fun. I think it took me, 5 to 7 hours, and I tried, and it was really difficult. And obviously, we can't do feedback. We had 52 submissions. We can't do exact feedback on why a piece wasn't selected because we just don't have the capacity or the budget to do it. But I tried to do a line on what I liked about the pieces because nearly all of them were really, really good. And it was
well, you said before, if you could have showcased everyone, you would have done, but it's just like you say, you don't have the capacity for 50. So, yeah.
So if you submitted last time and you weren't chosen, don't think it's one, you're writing, but also it is the alchemy of the event. So because we're trying to give an inclusive platform to writers, we have so many writers we select at different levels. So I know some people in the feedback were like, oh, I thought this would be like all published authors. And it was like, well, no.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just one person or I think one person.
Yeah, okay, interesting.
But it's interesting, isn't it? Because I tried to put that in the comms, but maybe I need to explain that more, that the whole point is it's about equality. So if nobody gives you a chance, how do you know? And not everyone has access. Would have had access, at different points of their life. So I was talking to this yesterday to the funders, because we're obviously trying to get match funding from the council. So I had a phone call with them. And I was saying, we obviously, in the new writing category, we did have young people, but also we had older people as well. You'll know this, it might not be that you knew you wanted to be a writer when you were 18 or 20 or,
oh, God knows.
But most people don't. You might have come to it much later in life. So it's also we want to have a range of ages and different backgrounds, different diversities, different educational experiences, because that's real diversity of voice, isn't it?
That's it.
Together.
And you might just be having a play, like this thing, like you say, because there's this whole, the classic imposter syndrome. I'm not a writer, whether it is your job or whether it isn't your job. But, even if it's just I like writing, I fancy trying something, it's about that. So this is what's so inclusive about this event is there is no parameters and categories. And I also actually love that you do invite published writers, because sometimes you get excluded at that side as well, because it's oh, well, now that you publish something, you're no longer eligible for any of the fun stuff. So, it's lovely that you've got both ends, and it's anyone and everyone to be encouraged to participate.
No, absolutely. It's really exciting. And I think, in a way, I see that as, as a society, if we were more enabled to be with more different types of people, we would have a happier society. It's when you think you can only be with these people, you can only say these sort of things. That's not the joy of life. And you know this with your book. The joy of life is actually connection.
Yeah, exactly.
It's everything. So yeah. So obviously it was a large number of submissions. Please do submit again, or if you didn't submit the first time, do think about it. And please, whether you get selected or not, please come. It's a wonderful night. And some people actually made connections and have gone off and done collaborations just from people they met on the night.
Yeah.
This is building your community. And the more we connect with each other and support each other and lift each other up, it lifts everybody up. I think this is what I've loved about this year on Substack and focusing on community building is before, as a writer, I actually really often felt in competition with other writers. That's the position I was put in.
Okay, yeah.
Particularly like at university and then coming through
Yeah.
actually emerging writers programs, we were competing with each other.
Yeah, yeah.
And what I've loved about Substack is there's room for everybody. There's room for everybody's voice and everybody's style and everybody's background. And I don't really feel
brilliant.
well done,
Thank
Emma.
you. Sorry, that was somebody saying lovely talk last night. Thank you.
She's like Beyonce, thank you so much.
Yes, I'm exactly like that. Yes, I'm that famous. Yeah, sorry.
But okay, so so there are two categories. So how we score it is the marks are actually out of 40. 2 categories are scored out of 10, and then 4 categories are scored out of 5. And the 2 that are scored out of 10 are called the weighted categories. And this is the system we used to use in the civil service. So it then means as panels, if we have very similar scores, there's kind of like very splitting hairs between things, the fair way to do it is to go actually who performed in the weighted categories. And it's also interesting that people sometimes might drop a point or earn a point in the ones out of 5 as well. So I think everyone who did read it right up had literally dropped 1, 2, maybe 3 points, but it was a very high scoring system. And so obviously, that's a lot of things to think about. So marks out of 10 that are the most important 2 categories are voice and originality. That's 1 category. And then the other 1 out of 10 is emotional and intellectual impact. And I think, you could probably speak to this. I know when Tom wrote his entry, he thought very much about what it would be like to read that out loud and perform that in a sense.
Yes.
And so a mark out of 5 is also performance potential because it is a live event.
Yes.
So what works in a live event might be a little bit different to sometimes what works on the page.
Yeah.
I would advise people to video or audio record themselves and listen back to it and think about their rhythm and how they're going to deliver this, because they're going to have to deliver this as well. Anything that you would speak to that, Emma?
Yeah, I really would advise that. Excruciating as that may sound or feel initially, especially if it's something you've never done before, it's actually one of my top writing tips in general, because when I wrote the book, I then voice recorded chapters. And I initially did that because my eldest daughter and my husband are dyslexic. So rather than them reading it, I could record it to them. But then I just started listening to it back. And it was an amazing way of thinking, oh, that jars. Oh, that doesn't come across well when you're listening. And so I think for this, it's perfect because it gives you that sense of flow. It really helps that. And you think, actually, but because when you listen, you're like, oh no, I've repeated that, or I've said that word, or that's a bit jarring. You know what I mean? So I think it's a great, great tool. And it gives you the confidence because, if you've never spoken before, and a lot of people find that really intimidating. And, we were saying earlier that we're both kind of extrovert in a lot of ways, but, you still have those introvert qualities. And if it's not something you're comfortable with, the only reason I'm so sort of confident public speaking is because I've done so much of it. Like in my career before doing anything to do with writing, when I was at the Civil Aviation Authority, I would go and speak to audiences all over the world about aviation stuff. And I hated it at first, but it is practice, 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 practice. And now it's fine. And so, yeah, I think that's invaluable.
Sometimes you lose your way a bit. Like I was always super confident at public speaking. Like even when I was even when I finished university and I was a graduate, I was at Labour Party conference and they said to me, Amy, the leaders selected you. This would have been Tony Blair at the time, who was the Prime Minister, the leaders asked you if you can go on to the stage and talk about the fact that you've been writing plays and your first play got sponsorship by the Labour Party for you to produce it. And I was just like, what?
Yeah.
And it was televised because it's the Labour Party conference. I was like, oh my God. But because I was 21, 22, I just got up and did it. I didn't really care. And I think I did notice that after COVID and after my mum died and being ill, actually, because I had really bad pneumonia, I was going to a brand launch of a brand that I created, and they were like, oh, we'd like you to get up on the stage and talk about the brand. And I was just like, no. Oh no, I don't want to do
Oh
this.
gosh, yeah. And you lose confidence, and you
Lose
get times like
confidence.
that. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I went away and spent a lot of money on like some books and things to revisit that because I'd felt I'd lost it. And I read Viv Groshcott, How to Own the Room. Well, actually I listened to it on audiobook, which is really good. And I know Claire Venus from Sparkle and Substack, she's read that book and it's been an influence on her. And it was like, you just have to start getting up in public again. And I think, Emma, that was one of the reasons I organised that first meetup a year ago.
Nice.
I need to get comfortable speaking to people in public again.
Yeah.
Small.
Yeah, it's just like any sort of muscle you need to exercise in that way. But what I would also say, because it will still terrify some people, is that the Write Up crowd audience is the most warm and welcoming, and everyone in there wants you. Well, it's not even a case of wants you to succeed, because on the night you're not competing for anything. Do you know what I mean? Everyone just wants to hear your story, and it doesn't matter if you stumble over a word or we're feeling the emotion, and the pieces that will get selected, like you spoke about, it's original voices, something that has emotional and that intellectual impact, and you could really see that last time, and just it was such a joy, and everyone there is just wanting to hear your story. So it's not like we're sitting there going, X Factor, who next? We want the next one. It's just like, it's such a beautiful thing to be able to sit there and think, actually, these people are welcoming. They're here to hear a variety of things, to be surprised. So one of the things that, it's not in sort of a category as such, but I love to be surprised by things. That's it, like the magic of storytelling. You never know where it's going to go, which is, again, what I love about the variety of themes that you've put forward around Christmas, because these could go anywhere. And that's so exciting.
Ranjani, who was either after you or two after you, I didn't know she was going to sing.
She sang. God, absolutely floored me. I nearly cried. Yeah.
It was so beautiful because she's an Indian writer. She used also, which is, you can absolutely do this, she used bilingual in her writing.
Yeah.
Because she was writing about her grandmother. She sang the song that her grandmother would have sung to her.
It was so beautiful.
And I didn't know she was going to do that. And it was beautiful. And then if you think about how Rachel, who's a performance poet, she's got I envy performance poets.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, it was so great
just
to watch.
Kind of like, they just get it, they just perform it like it's all.
And then it was like, what's next?
Yeah.
And then, And then Danisha at the end was explosive. So, yeah, I know.
Danisha was explosive, and what was hilarious was we were setting up, and I think it was me and Lauren and Tom. This old lady wandered in, and she was like, "What are you doing?" And we explained, and she was like, "Can I come?" And we were like, "Okay." So we took her payment, and then I can't remember which of us it was, but we said, "Oh, the reading at the end, it's got quite a lot of, it's quite surprising. It's got a lot of
a bit risque."
It's a bit risque. and I can't remember which of the boys said it, but they went, "You might want to turn your hearing aid down." And she went, "I think I'll turn my hearing aid up."
I love that.
And she had a whale of a time. And I think the boys were taking her some drinks as well. It was really good.
Can I just say something quickly as well? Just, I don't know how much time we've got, but about the music?
Yes.
Because actually...
I'll just quickly tell people the other 5 points.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Music too. Yeah. No, it's me. Always on a tangent. So, voice and originality, we're just talking about how we're judging the weighting for the categories for write-up. Voice and originality is highly weighted at 10 points. Emotional and intellectual impact is highly weighted at 10 points. At 5 points, we have clarity and coherence. I do think this is a really important thing for new writers to think about. what I notice, maybe that people's transitions aren't very clear, like thinking about kind of the beats, like, and also it's all a lot of the time it also comes back to show don't tell, like
Yeah.
we're inviting people into an experience. So really think about that's really
Yeah, which is sometimes tricky because it's a small piece, and that's something I really had to work really, really hard on because I'm not known for my brevity. Anyone that follows me on Substack, I don't really write very short things. I write long things, and so to try and give that was one of the biggest challenges. But that also made it really fun because it was like, okay, this needs to make sense in itself. In a piece, which is why I scrapped all my previous ideas of thinking of leaning on other things I may have written in the past and thought, no, this is it. I need to start clean, start fresh, and it's got to be a thing in itself.
and you can see, like, writers who are very experienced, like Tom, you can see he landed an idea, had a very clear story arc,
Yeah.
then took the idea to another level. And I know he told me what he was going to do. So Tom, you can see on his Substack, he wrote a piece called "I Love It When You Call," using the music, about his grandma, and about the fact that he still wants to phone her and he can't because she's died. And he told me at the end, Amy, I'm going to hold up my phone and delete the number. It's like, what?
Oh no,
You're gonna do what?
no.
And so I think that is where writing, where we are performing, but we're stepping into our own vulnerability. But I think that also is why writers can connect with people so deeply because they're experiencing those things. You know what that costs somebody,
Yeah,
what that says about
exactly,
grief and loss in just that one moment. But he's obviously
exactly.
thought about it a lot, and it was so brave and so beautiful. And then so relevance to theme, that also is out of 5. And then performance potential is out of 5. And then if you
Brilliant.
have very, very similar scores, we obviously are looking at the alchemy of the event. So we'll be thinking about diversity, inclusion, and community engagement, because I think actually what I did notice,
Oh, there's Ingrid, one of the fabulous,
oh, I love
fabulous helpers.
She's
Hi.
so sad. I love Ingrid. She was amazing. Um,
She was amazing. She is amazing. Lots
it,
of love for you, Ingrid.
so much love. Oh gosh, she plans her like trips to London. I think around the meetup sometimes. She's the best. Where was I going?
Sorry, performance potential. And then you were talking about, oh no, you're talking about the alchemy and diversity, inclusion, community.
Yes. What I noticed was that with the home theme, particularly on diaspora, unsurprisingly, I got quite a lot of very similar ones. So that's the
Mm,
other thing. Like if it's very, very similar,
yeah,
same
you've got to,
theme, same sort of story, then you're really going to have to look at who's executed it the best. Where if
yeah.
someone's got a very original
Well, that's the
voice,
originality thing, isn't it?
yes, that's the
And I
thing.
think also, I think maybe sometimes people overthink that. Like, 'cause like I said right at the beginning, because obviously some people weren't on the beginning of this call, you know, don't overthink about what the judges want and sort of think and try to be over clever or anything like that. I think you just got to be true to yourself. I really do believe that because, the most incredible stories come from what we know, what we experience, what we have, what we feel. So I think that's it. That would be brilliant.
Okay,
Sorry,
and then
still people marching past.
it's okay. And so
Um,
the music as well. So
The music, can I just
yeah,
say a little bit about that from a perspective of, so one of the things that was so joyous for me in entering last time was the music, because you had the piece and then Amy asked us to submit 2 pieces of music to go in and out from that kind of resonated with that. And that brought me such joy because, well, I just love thinking about music, and they're just little snippets that you get introduced to and snippets that you get played out from. But that also really inspired the writing. So there's 2 parts of that. I think it makes the submission process really, really fun and really enjoyable and gives an extra dimension. And if you get stuck, it's like, well, maybe start thinking about the music and see where that takes you. But also as an experience as an audience member, it was just such a joy because there was like a little mini disco. It's like every time somebody's little snippets played, you're like, oh yeah, okay. Oh, what's this about? And oh, that makes sense. And so it made it totally unique. I've never been to a sort of a spoken word evening like that, and I thought that was so special.
and it was funny because we had both people who are from the north chose, which was Louise, who was amazing. We should give a shout out. Louise was just, I mean,
She
she had
was.
put her all into it long before she knew she was even chosen. I think her late entry was a really late entry, and she was already fully committed. I think she was more surprised than anybody when she was selected, and she put so much into it. Louise Morris, who does Live Stack as well. But Louise and Matt both picked Arctic Monkeys, and I was like,
Yeah.
I'd never even thought about the Arctic Monkeys.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it had real, and then I had to really listen to the lyrics, which I'd never done before when I was putting it all together. And I was like, oh, this is really interesting. Oh, it was quite
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
It's
know.
just it's such a great hook for inspiration, and it just makes it so enjoyable.
So we'd really like, so the deadline to submit to write up is this Sunday, I think at 10 p.m. I think it's about that. But I know Matt said, I think he submitted 5 minutes before it closed or something.
Well, I submitted quite late last time as well because I was abroad. I mean, so, but please do. I mean, I cannot wait to read your submissions. I'm so excited about it. And just please don't, please don't be scared. There's nothing to be scared. We want you to enjoy the experience. You know, we are not scary people. We are celebrating writers and voices and all that and everything that you bring. And so, it's just the most friendly space, and just give it a go. And what's the worst that can happen? That you just have a piece, and even if it doesn't get selected, you've done something, you've written this thing. And that is incredible. That is so brave. And you've created a piece of art for yourself. And that in itself is priceless.
And I think what we did do
this Sunday, Jennifer's saying, is it this Sunday?
Yeah, please, Jennifer. Yeah. So the submissions are by the end of the day this Sunday. That's the 9th of November to submit. It's up to 500 words. There's a link on my Substack is I Need to Finish This Before I Die. I also did a post yesterday announcing Emma and Tom, which is on their Substacks, which will have a link to the submissions page.
It's raining.
It's raining. So it's up to 500 words. If it was slightly over, it wouldn't be the end of the world. So don't worry. But that's really to do with the timings because of the time it takes to read the pieces. Please do submit. We really want a variety of.
Jennifer's asking, is it midnight Sunday, Amy?
Yeah. Till midnight. If you're pulling an all-nighter, Jennifer, that's fine.
Yes.
I will not be checking it in. I hope I won't be checking it in. I hope I'll be asleep. I probably won't be asleep. But I would hope to be asleep. But yes, you have until the end of the day on Sunday to get it in. Then we'll be in our judging process, and we will let people know as soon as we can. And I really hope people come. So with the pledging, or how you do the pledges is also on my Substack. It's so important. I mean, what was amazing last time was we had pledges from people who were in the UK who couldn't come. We had pledges from people who don't even live in the UK.
Amazing.
I love what you're doing with this because I think people recognise that this write-up has happened because we wanted it to happen. This is almost like manifestation, isn't it, for writers? And it can only happen if everybody joins in.
Totally. And Jennifer's made me laugh. Of course, it's last minute. So was mine. I like really, really last minute. So,
I think, yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, Jennifer was in my writer's circle this week, and I went, and on my piece, I was like, I wrote this in a day. I was last minute with my own writer's circle.
Well, you know what? Because last time, because I was on holiday, I was like, oh, I'm not going to get a chance to submit. I'm going abroad. And I was just like, oh, bugger, I'm not going to get a chance. And then, like I say, it was the morning and my husband and the girls were still snoozing, and I was sitting out on the balcony with a cup of tea, and I thought, sod it, I'm just going to do it. So I was very last minute, and it was fairly quick because it was, like I say, I had a couple of hours grace, and I was like, right, I'm just going to do it. And it sort of came in that time. So yeah, so don't worry about it being last minute.
I also wonder how many. It's also interesting because we had a lot of memoir, and it'll be interesting to see if that happens again.
Yeah.
And I also wonder about the impact the Lily Allen album is having on everybody's psyche at the moment. Like whether that will influence what we end up.
Yes, I had a good listen of that the other day. It was very interesting.
Yeah, it was really interesting. And what you can kind of convey in quite a few words, which is your side of the story, really, really.
I'm sure there will be, but I'm also really excited, like you say, about the fireside tales and the ghost stories and the winter stuff. There's so much magic in that subject. There's so much in there.
And I hope we do get maybe some of the more less writery people and maybe more of the people who do like all the embodiment work, that
Yeah.
would be really valuable to have their experience about, what this time of the year means, what winter means, like what
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be like all like storytelling, like, a character and a protagonist. It can also be a feeling or a sentiment or an experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just say, and good. And Jennifer's got a Substack to write too. So, okay, busy weekend. Oh, they could be the same thing. You never know. I know, Ingrid, I think one of the really special things about Write Up is how warm and friendly it is. Everyone is so willing to connect and include. It's a beautiful way to feel part of the writing community. 100%. That is what it is. I mean, it was just smiles and warmth in that room, like from start to finish. It was really special.
And I think don't you? Like, I think one of the things I like to think is that somebody in the audience is going, well, I don't have anything to say now, but, like maybe this thing will be ready next year or the year after, and hopefully this will still be. That kind of scares me a little bit. Like, people already talked to me. Like, when I did the first one, people were straight away like, well,
when's the next one? You're like, hold on a minute.
and
It's just me.
No, there would be a next one. I was like, when the funding people called me yesterday, they went, "You're doing another one, Amy. Can you explain to me why?" Because I think so many things obviously are just like one-offs. And they were like,
because you can just say of the success of it and the demand of it. And, I have to say before we end the call today as well, like all credit to you, Amy, for what you have created and for what you have brought here, because this is your brainchild, your idea. You got it going. You got the crowdfunding, you got the match funding. So, big up you for this. I really mean that. It's an exceptional piece of community support and bloody hard work on your behalf. So thank you. Thank you from me and from everyone, I'm sure will feel the same. And there's hearts flying everywhere for you right now, and rightly so.
Please tell everybody to pledge. I mean, I really need the pledges now, because one of the funders yesterday, they phoned me yesterday. They were like, "We really do want to match fund this. Please tell us why you're doing it again." And I said, "It's not come from me. It's come from the community." And they were like, "Really? That's very exciting." And I was like, "It's true. That's where it's come from." Like, I mean,
instigated by you, but yes, it is. But it's a real special gift that you have in bringing that together and kind of enabling this to happen. So yeah, let's not forget that.
And I just hope I hope it sparks more conversations about valuing writers and paying writers. And
that would be nice.
And I'm launching.
That would be lovely.
I'm launching like a salon next year, and I'm talking to authors at the moment about coming to the salon.
It's very exciting.
It's like, I want to pay you to come to the salon. I want you to keep all the money from the book sales at the salon, because I'm trying to build the things that I would like.
Yeah.
Not just for me. Like, actually, my writing events have always been profitable and fun because I have all those skills. Like, that's my background. And when I used to be at the HarperCollins author party, every summer, people used to go, "You're so lucky." And I'd be like, "Oh, yeah, sorry." Like, and I just thought, actually, can I start to create things that perhaps I can use that other people can use as well?
No, it's brilliant. Darling, I'm going to have to, it started raining and I'm sat outside. So it's been an absolute delight to speak to you. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you so much for inviting me to judge. I am beyond excited to read the stories. It's an absolute privilege and I can't wait to read them. So please submit, please pledge, please come along, and see you all on the night.
Thank you. Bye. Bye. Always lovely, Emma. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.